I'm Stacey. Welcome to the kitchen of my old Kentucky home. Today, Jessica and I are going to be smoking some things up. I'm going to be doing a Kentucky-style barbecue, and to complement the smokiness of that, Jessica's going to do a smoked old-fashioned. We even have a bonus recipe to pair with all of this. Let's get started. The South has long been known for barbecue, and different regions have different styles, from how they cook it to the variety of sauces, red-based, vinegar-based, white-based. Well, Kentucky has its own styles, in fact, several styles, but today we're going to be borrowing one from the western part of the state, particularly Owensboro style. And the barbecue sauce we're going to be making is a variation of recipes from the Kentucky Dip. Today we're not going to be doing mutton as they would in Owensboro. I couldn't find that in Louisville, but we're going to be doing brisket instead. We're also, because I'm not a pit master, we're not going to be smoking it over an open pit, but we're going to be adding some liquid smoke to give it that flavor. And this you can do in your own oven at home on a baking sheet. For our Kentucky BBQ brisket, we're going to need a 4.5 to 5 pound brisket, a half a cup of Worcestershire sauce, a half a cup of ketchup, a half a cup of apple cider vinegar, 4 tablespoons of brown sugar, a tablespoon of cracked black pepper, a tablespoon of hot sauce, 2 tablespoons of Kentucky bourbon, 2 tablespoons of minced garlic, and 2 tablespoons of liquid smoke. Okay, the barbecue sauce that we're going to make for our brisket, as I said, is the Kentucky style. In particular, I found a lot of recipes and a lot of old cookbooks called a Kentucky Dip. And so it's kind of a combination of some recipes that I grew up with and this version, and of course I had to add a splash of Kentucky bourbon. So we're going to mix all this together. We're going to put it on the stove before we prep our brisket. So we've got some Worcestershire sauce, some apple cider vinegar, some brown sugar, it's been sitting for a while, our bourbon, a little hot sauce. This particular recipe we're using Frank's, some fresh cracked pepper, and we're going to add some more of this to the brisket as well before we put it in the oven, and some ketchup. So Kentucky has the more tomato-based vinegar sauces as opposed to, say, North Carolina, which I know has the white-based sauces. And this one I can already smell sweet with that brown sugar and bourbon nose on it. We're going to take this over to the stove and just bring it to a quick boil before we prep our brisket. Okay, we've got the ingredients for our Kentucky Dip barbecue sauce ready, and we're just going to really just bring this to a quick boil. This has come to a quick little boil, and we're going to take it off the stove and prep the brisket. One of the things I love about this recipe is I don't have to spend days, hours over a hot barbecue pit, right? This is really something that you can get a little bit of the flavor and just an easier method, slow cooking in the oven. And you can make it on the weekend. It cooks for about 4 or 5 hours depending on your cut of meat, again at a very slow temperature. So what I've done is lined a baking sheet with 2 pieces of that heavy duty aluminum foil. We're going to wrap this up and we don't want steam to escape. I've got my brisket in the center of it. First thing I'm going to do is just salt it really well. Add a little more cracked pepper. Then we're going to add that liquid smoke. Some people don't like the taste of this. I think it really mimics the pit as best it can. I really smell it. And then this is just 2 tablespoons of that minced garlic. Just kind of get that a little evenly around there. And then finally, this is that Kentucky Dip we've made on the stove. We're just gonna pour that all over this. And this will not completely cook off, so you're gonna get a little barbecue sauce left to put on your sliced brisket when it comes out of the oven. You could also make a double batch to be served with it. So we're going to just gather this up. Just make a little packet. gonna make it as tight as we can. We'll put this in a 350-degree oven now for 4 hours. So now we're gonna do the side that I promised, the bonus dish with our barbecue. I think this pairs really well with it and a lot of other things, and that is corn pudding. This particular recipe is the Beaumont Inn version. Here's what we're gonna need. 2 cups of corn, 4 cups of milk, a half a cup of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, a tablespoon and a half of sugar, 4 eggs, and a 1/4 cup of butter. Okay, the first thing we're gonna do is mix some of these drier ingredients. We've got the 2 cups of corn, and you can use, this is fresh corn that we cut off the cob. You can also use frozen, but if you're gonna use the frozen, you wanna completely thaw it out and then drain it so it's dry. We're gonna use a half a cup of all-purpose flour, tablespoon and a half of sugar, teaspoon of salt, and I took that 1/4 cup of butter and melted it. I'm just gonna mix this up. This is one of my favorite things from growing up, and this particular recipe we're using, oh, that corn got away from me, is from the Beaumont Inn in Harrodsburg, Kentucky, which is about an hour outside of Louisville. The Beaumont Inn started in 1845 actually as a college. It was Daughters College and then became Beaumont College. And the Dedman family purchased it back in 1919 and converted it into a tavern inn. Now it has a restaurant, the Old Owl Bourbon Bar. It's got swimming on property. It's just a beautiful place to stay for the weekend. In fact, we took my mother-in-law there recently for her 75th birthday and got country ham and this wonderful corn pudding. Okay, I'm gonna set this aside, and the next thing we're gonna do is beat the eggs into this 4 cups of milk. Try not to slosh the pan too much. And I just think this pairs really nicely with the sweetness of the barbecue. Of course, this is a dish that we have as a side at Thanksgiving and Easter and 4th of July, just about any fun holiday like that. It's certainly not the diet special. Now our egg and milk mixture is nice and frothy. So we're gonna add that to our corn and flour mixture. Gonna stir that up. You will need for this amount, a 9 by 13 inch casserole. Got that over here. And I like to prep mine with a little olive oil or canola oil. You can also butter it. And we're just gonna pour that right in here. I've got the got the oven set to 325, and we're going to stir this about 3 or 4 times while it is cooking. With our barbecue brisket in the oven on a slow cook, it's time to go check out Jessica and her smoked old fashioned.
Today I'm going to make a smoked version of Louisville's official cocktail, the Old Fashioned, to pair with Stacey's smoky barbecue. We're going to use Noah's Mill bourbon, barrel-aged bitters, bourbon barrel smoked sugar made by a local company called Bourbon Barrel Foods, an orange peel, and a little bit of water. So first we're going to take a teaspoon of these bourbon barrel smoked sugar, put it right into our rocks glass, and then I've got 2 teaspoons of hot water. And we're gonna go ahead and add 3 dashes of bitters. And we're gonna stir that until the sugar has dissolved a little bit. So this is a little bit of a more modern version of the Old Fashioned than the classic Pendennis cocktail, and that we're not going to muddle any fruit directly into the drink. It's just gonna be the sugar, bitters, and bourbon with a garnish. Got that sugar dissolved a little bit, we're gonna go ahead and add one of our large ice cubes. And this helps kind of control the level of dilution that the bourbon gets. And we're gonna use 2 ounces of this Noah's Mill bourbon. And we're just gonna give this a little bit of a stir to incorporate all the ingredients and get a little of the water from the cube in there. And that should be perfect. So the last thing we're gonna do is kind of flambe a little bit of an orange peel. We're gonna get those sugars a little bit seared to add to the smoky flavor we're already getting from the sugars. So you get kind of a good slice here. I'm using a vegetable peeler because that makes it easier to get not too much of the pith on the inside. And then what I'm gonna do is just take a lighter and try to sear some of those sugars. There we go. A little more on there. And then just rub that orange peel around the rim of your glass a little bit so that the flavors are really enhanced and the odors of it when you bring it up to your mouth, and then just stick that in your cocktail. And that's all there is to it. Smoked old fashioned. Well, Stacey, the smell of that brisket cooking is literally mouth-watering.
It's nice, isn't it? I hope it tastes good. Well, while we wait for our friends to come over, I can't think of a better intro cocktail to have to get us ready for that. I love what you did with the smoke in this. It's really whetting my appetite for that barbecue.
Good. Well, and that barrel smoked sugar really does it for this cocktail, but you don't have to be in Louisville to get it. Bourbon Barrel Foods sells their stuff online too.
In fact, I didn't mention I used their version of the Worcestershire sauce. I can never say that word in the barbecue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of excited to compare this to some other Kentucky style barbecues since I haven't had your version before. Say some of my favorites around town is, have you had the Feast loaded tater tot nachos with brisket?
I like those. I like the barbecue brisket in my favorite neighborhood barbecue joint, Frankfort Avenue Beer Depot.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
And oh, have you been to Shack in the Back by
I
Jefferson
have.
Memorial Forest?
It's about almost 20-30 minutes on the outskirts of town.
But totally worth it.
So worth the drive, especially if you spend an afternoon hiking in Jefferson Memorial Forest.
Then you don't even have to feel guilty about
That's
it.
right, that's the payoff. Other side of town, more east, I like Juicy's Barbecue, Old Hickory Pit, another one, and another 2 regional chains, just meaning they have a couple locations locally. Mark's Feed Store. Also, you can get great burgoo there, which we've featured here before, and Mama's Mustard and Pickles, which is on the Urban Bourbon Trail as well.
Yeah, we definitely do not have a shortage of good barbecue in Louisville or Kentucky in general, really.
Well, maybe we'll see if we're gonna open up our own shack in the back.
Well, I feel good about it. I think that's all. We're just gonna wait on this brisket and have a few friends over, but we'll see you here next time on Bourbon.
And in today's case, briskets.
Cheers. Cheers.